Give me one incident where you felt like so lonely. I guess it was the loneliest point in your entrepreneurship journey.
Before I dropped out of university, it was pretty lonely. I didn't go out at all. I was in my dorm room churning cards. Royal Mail would come up in the morning, pick the parcels up, and I'd manufacture for the evening.
Myles Dickinson, the youngest ever entrepreneur to get an investment from Dragon's Den. Business runs within his family all the way back to his famous grandfather, David Dickinson, from Dickinson's Real Deal and Bargain Hunt. How does this Dragon's Den process work?
So you're actually waiting for like 5 hours to get on as well. So my nerves, when I tell you they were going, I was sat there for 5 hours, and a guy had just gone in before me, and he hadn't come out, and they just go, "Myles, you're up next."
After securing £35,000 from Dragon's Den from none other than Steven Bartlett, he is now well into his entrepreneurial journey. His future is very exciting.
I think it's all about coming back from things, right? A lot of people sit there and go, oh, 15 grand. But you think, okay, I lost 15 grand. It could have been 50.
Being young, I would have thought you would have said like it made life a little bit difficult. But
100%.
You're saying is it quite the opposite as well, or is it a bit of both?
It is difficult. I have a high risk mindset, but you've got to be careful with high risk mindset. The risk you choose has to be calculated. You can't just be stupid. Yeah.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming in all the way from Manchester, I believe.
From Manchester, yeah. A couple of meetings, but yeah.
Congratulations on your recent success with TV, Dragon's Den in particular. So give me a context in terms of about your life. Maybe take us back to your primary school days, or even before, or your earliest memory.
Yeah, my earliest memory. I hated school. I hated primary school. I used to mess around. Got no work done. Like just messed around. I really loved. I loved the social side. I just enjoyed the lessons. And then from a young age, my parents thought I had dyslexia. It turns out I just hated school and I was incredibly lazy. And then my earliest memories, my dad, he bought and sold property. He's a mortgage advisor as well. So I was kind of around that business mindset from a very young age. And my mum ran a restaurant. So that was really ingrained with me. But yeah.
Amazing. So you say, obviously you didn't like school, and you were messing around. Like, what kind of messing? Were you naughty or just messing around in general?
I wouldn't say. I would say in the teacher's eyes naughty, but for my eyes, I would just say just being a normal teenager or child.
And you mentioned dyslexia. How do you diagnose dyslexia? Does that mean I'm dyslexic because I didn't like school either?
No. I think, from my understanding, very vague understanding, is, in year 6, I believe, I just showed no sort of care in the world for any of the main core subjects. And then I think my parents were like, this is a bit strange. And then when I got into my first year of high school, they tested me. Primary school, they thought I had it. They tested me, said I had it. Year 7 high school, they tested me and I said I didn't have it. So then at that point, I was just like labelled as I didn't have dyslexia. I don't think I do. I think I've got a bit of minor ADHD, but apart from that,
what's the most hated subject?
Gosh, English language.
English language.
Oh God, I hate English language.
Wow, for me it's maths. Just hate it. Just
it's
puts
the
me to
teachers
sleep.
as well. English teachers they're the worst.
So fast forward. How old are you now? If you don't mind me asking? 19. So, what are you doing now? Maybe give us a overview of what you do now.
Yeah, I'm the founder of Haze Cards. We transform your boring plastic credit and debit card and turn it into metal, and we offer complete customization. We're also very big in the corporate space, so like your hotel room cards, metal, bamboo, plastic, all of the above, and a bit of manufacturing as well. Just the whole Haze Cards brand, really.
Amazing. So how did Haze come about? Like, what inspired you to go into metal? Card
metal credit cards. Yeah. So I was studying finance, investment, and risk management in London. Hated the actual course as well. And I always saw kind of the American Express black card, and I was like, I really want a metal credit card. Obviously, the credit limits are so high, and they're normally quite expensive. So I thought, how could I give that product to the mass market? So I kind of bought some metal off Alibaba. And started taking apart my bank cards stupidly. Well, not stupidly, obviously, but the idea was stupid at the start, and then I just tried to create a metal credit card, and finally I managed to transform my Santander debit card to metal, and it worked just like a normal plastic credit card. It was just metal. So then we bought laser engravers using my student loan, and they were like $2,500 each. As a student, it's a lot of money to just spend. But we learned that we could customize these cards and put people's faces on, family faces, dogs, pets, clip art. And then we set up a website, and then we started selling these cards. And yeah, they're just cool, customized metal credit cards.
And when was that website launched?
So we had a really bad website I created on Wix, and I want to say that's October time in 2021. Awful website. I think we sold a few cards on there, and then we managed to make enough money to hire a developer to create our second website, which is what we went on Dragon's Den with. A huge learning curve there. I thought the website was cool until someone came in and destroyed it.
Oh wow! So you see, a lot of people have websites. A lot of people make websites. What made your website different, where customers came and placed order? What did you do to kind of drive traffic to that website? Yeah,
so at first it was a boring plain website. I think the best thing in our age is you have access to so many resources that are free. So YouTube, we use YouTube a lot. And then you learn, I think we used a lot of software where we could see where customers were placing orders and how they were interacting with the website. And we kind of learned, okay, it's a trust product, right? The customer it's a lot of money to spend on a product. And the customer wants to feel that they're going to get value. So we really hammered reviews. We hammered social proof, so reviews with customers' pictures, their testimonials, kind of a lot of what the product would look like, because it's a custom product, so there's so many variations. So we kind of did example products, rendered products, so we spent a lot of money hiring designers to kind of preview what the product would look like. And then complete layout, brand colors, so we stuck kind of like a yellowy gold as the Haze logo and a black website, and we made sure the thumbnails of the cards were really popping. So a lot of rainbow colors, a lot of really bright golds, silvers, and whites.
Amazing. Wow.
Yeah, and just hammered all the above, really.
What was your views like on your first YouTube video? Did you know it's gonna go somewhere? And what were the views?
Yeah, so our first video on TikTok, I think we've got banned the first time, but our first account, 150,000 views. First TikTok video. Back then it was really easy to get TikTok views. TikTok was really blowing up. A good time to be alive, really. Yeah. And then every day we just hammered it. So every day we just film cards. And the best thing about cards is we would create them and we could film the process, and people loved watching the process. So we would film the cards being engraved, and people would send in like, can you put my card on TikTok? So we created, can you post my card on TikTok? We would then film customers' cards, and they would share it, and it'd be like, oh, this is a cool card. And it just gets shared around. And it's kind of like the dominoes effect, really.
Amazing. Yes, TikTok is very hard nowadays. They've changed a lot. So when would you say, like, what was the tipping point from being a very, very kind of small idea stage startup to a fully kind of operational business? Yeah. When did that happen?
I think it was a jump, right? It was a hobby for so long, and there was no one on my back. My parents didn't know about it. A lot of people didn't know about it. It was something I did in the background. There's a bit of money to spend on drinks. Obviously, London's quite expensive. So I remember we hit $7,000 in a month, and I was like, that's pretty cool. And then I just couldn't do everything myself. My university degree was sliding off a hill. I didn't attend any lectures. I think I just did a talk at my old university actually recently, but my attendance was like 50%. Or maybe less. And I was just working so hard, like constantly, and I would never go out. And I realized I need to start delegating things. This is getting serious. I had to be an accountant in. We used a lot of VAs on Fiverr. 'Cause I think one thing I struggled straight off the bat was managing people. Right, it was a learning curve. I feel in business, a lot of businesses have small stages, so they go for like a couple of years of like being quite small. And they can learn. That's the learning period. Yeah. And then it starts to build up. Whereas we didn't have that learning period. We were learning whilst we were building, which was good because you learn fast. But we made a lot of mistakes. We lost a lot of money in some parts. But that money that we lost really paid off towards the end.
So my next question was, what's the, I guess, best business deal? But I want to flip that to loss. Like, how much money did you lose in a deal or in a situation, and how did it happen?
Yeah, we've had the website go down a couple of times. I think so. A TikTok post of ours blew up, maybe like 250,000 views, and the site went down. Or the site was up, but the checkout process was down. But we didn't get notified. Shopify didn't notify us, and we probably lost, 15 grand. But
Wow.
obviously now we look back on it, at the time it was a huge sum of money to us. But now we look back and we've learned that what we could have done to prevent that. And now if we lose 150, that 15 grand, yes, we've lost for 15 grand, but we've learned now, and now we won't lose 150 in the future.
So how did you guys recover, or what did you, was it by yourself at that time, or did you have a few people working?
We had VAs at that time, virtual assistants, because I was still at university, so I couldn't exactly bring people in to my university dorm. I think it's all about coming back from things, right? A lot of people sit there and go, oh, 15 grand. But you think, okay, I lost 15 grand. It could have been 50.
Yeah.
It could be worse. We're still there standing. We can still trade. And it's just pure drive and just to carry on. Like, it could be worse. I always think it could be worse. It could be way worse. It could be 150.
Did you feel like blaming anyone at that point?
No, because what's that going to do? You can blame, Shopify could have done this, TikTok should have done this, but they're not going to do anything. And what are they going to do? It's a learning curve.
You just take responsibility and just
I kind of think, how did I feel in that time? And we don't want to feel like that in the future. We've learned how to tackle that problem. It's like a baby step. We've learned how to tackle that 15K problem. When we have a bigger problem in the future, we know because we've learned from the 15K problem.
Amazing. So where is the business now? I mean, in terms of, I don't want to get too much into details of the nitty gritty, but in terms of performance, how is it doing?
Yeah, we're recently off Dragon's Den, so sales are higher than usual, which was a learning curve as well, because you've got to deal with the mass amount of orders. You've got a structure, and suddenly you need a bigger house to structure in. So we're doing really well. We've started to expand the business more B2B. We've realised there's a glass ceiling with direct to consumers. So we're going down the B2B market. We've worked with dealerships like Porsche, some of the biggest holiday providers in the UK. So now that's kind of our area of expertise, kind of manufacturing and personalisation. And taking what we've learned through creating Haze Cards to Haze customization, so customized products. Amazing.
So I guess a lot of people, I myself had that question, how does this Dragon's Den process work? How do you get on it?
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, you have to decide how to, I guess, where to go.
Yeah.
And then you decide, okay, fine, I'm going to go on Dragon's Den. How did you come to that conclusion to begin with? And how was that process throughout?
Great question. I got a bit of PTSD when you just said that. No. So I remember this very clearly. I was at university in my university library, and I was on the BBC website, and I just saw that they were wanting applicants, and I was like, right, I'll apply. Genuinely, when I say the worst application form you've ever seen in your life, I was there typing away. When you think you're not going to be able to get it, and I just thought, whatever, I'll apply. I'm not going to get it, but I'll just apply anyway. Worst application form. I get a call from one of the researchers. He's like, "Oh, Myles, we'd like to talk to you about Dragon's Den." And then you go through a process. So it's like 6 stages, I believe. First stage, it was like, can we have a phone call? She asked what my company valuation was. Right, I'm at university. It's a hobby of mine. We're doing well, but it's a hobby. And I just go, 100 grand. 100 grand, 35%. Stupid valuation. I look back at it. But the idea was there. Didn't think I was going to get on. I was put down the phone. She said to me, if you don't hear back in 2 months' time, you're not free. And I was like, all right, I'm not free then. She gives me an email. Oh, hi, Myles, we'd like to see you on to the next stage. It was a 2-minute interview on Zoom. Usually you'd have to go in person to do it, but it was COVID.
Did you say 2 minutes?
2 minutes Zoom.
What did they ask you in 2 minutes?
No, so sorry, it was a 2-minute pitch over Zoom.
Okay, fine.
So kind of how it would replicate you walking out of the lift and you'd give your 2 minutes pitch. Thank you, Dragons, whatever. So we did that. Thankfully, it was on Zoom. It went okay. I thought it was all right.
What do you remember what you said in that Zoom call?
Not really. It was a bit of waffle. Probably not created as much. But and I was like, that's it. There's no physical way I'm getting any further. I'm 18, just 18. I was born in August 2003. Just 18. There's no one. I looked. No one else that was 18 was on there. I thought there's no way I'm just going to get up now. goes on. She's like, okay, you're on to the next stage. It was a recording of myself replicating the pitch I would do, but just with myself holding the camera in the room. Got on to the next stage, and I was like, there's no way. And she didn't reply for like 3 weeks. And I was like, all right, that's it. Sends me another email. No, call. Hi, Myles, you're on to the next stage. I could tell we were starting to whittle down now because she was spending a lot of time talking to me. And I thought, there can't be that many applicants. And it was like, right, due diligence. And she goes like, 6-month company accounts. No, it wasn't. It was like 3 years company accounts. I was like, I don't have 3 years. I'm in university, I have 3 years. So I literally, and there's time scales on this. You have to produce them by a certain date. So I'm like, got to get another accountant in, and we just produce all these documents in a matter of, I don't know, days. Send them in, and there was a lot of back and forward, and then a lot of waiting as well. And I was on holiday in Barcelona, and she calls me. I won't say her name, but she'll know who she is. Myles, you're on Dragon's Den. Like, okay, we need you back in Manchester in 2 weeks' time to film. And I'm
so that's stage 4.
Yeah, so stage 4, and then so you go to Manchester, and then you got to produce the documents, and your pitch has to be verified before you get on.
So are there like pitch experts who are saying, look, don't say this,
producers.
Don't say
So you say what you're going to say, and they have to approve it or not, and you have to say it in front of the producers. And then you leave, and then so my researcher who works for the BBC, she would pitch my idea to the producers as a final tick. So she would say, here's Myles, he's 18, he's on Haze Cards. And I truly believe, I've worked with her really closely over this 5-6 month period. She really pitched me incredibly well. I gave her every ounce of evidence I had to prove that we were good, that the business was good, that I really wanted to be on there and I could be on there.
What were they looking for, like, in terms of to be good? Like, what is good to them?
There's lots of businesses out there, but the founders, but the businesses need to be TV, or the story needs to have a bit of TV behind it, a bit of interest. So I kind of knew that from the get-go. So everything I was saying was pushing on that narrative. And I think me being 18 helped. And I knew that at 18, it was the youngest you could be going on alone. And I didn't want to go on with my parents, I wanted to go on my own. Anyway, she was like, right, you're through. Like, this is it, you're on. By the way, there's no guarantee at this point your pitch is going to be shown. And I go down to Manchester, and I give her my pitch, and she's like, right, okay, you need a source. One of them had like a fact in there.
And did you have any TV experience before that point? Like being on camera, under pressure, where you're pitching?
That was my first ever time I pitched an investor.
Wow, that is, that must have been scary.
Or pitch to anyone stood up, probably.
Like camera and then pitch, like that is two major things.
And I'd been watching the show since I was probably like 10, whatever, watching the show.
Did you ever think like, I wish I'm on there one day, or did you ever had?
It was 100% a bucket list item. It was 100% something I really, really, really wanted to achieve. Like just to get on there and be like, that is pretty cool. Like 10-year-old Myles watching me on there, incredible. And it was
impressive.
Ridiculous. We got there, and I couldn't find the source of my 2-minute pitch. She's like, it just disappeared off the internet. And she went, you can't say it. So when I walk out of the lift, there's like a little bit of a gap. That's because the bit that I took out, I forgot. So you're actually waiting for like 5 hours to get on as well. So my nerves, when I tell you they were going, I was sat there for 5 hours, and a guy had just gone in before me, and he hadn't come out, and they just go, Myles, you're up next. No warning.
It is literally like a den, like
no warning. You just walk out, go into the lift, and you walk straight out, and that's it. There's no TV stuff. It's just pure pitching for 2 hours.
And that place, does it look the way it does look on TV, or is that a green screen? Or
it's a TV set. So, I mean, when you walk in, it looks exactly like it looks exactly like the Dragon's Den, but on the outside, it's a TV studio. But when I walked in, I remember the lift doors opening, and Devin Meaden was like stood there right in front of me, and I was like, oh my god, this is some next level stuff. When I was in the lift, I was thinking like, who do I think I am? Like being on Dragon's Den. And I walked out, and I knew that if I could give my 2-minute pitch correctly, I'd be fine answering questions. It's just getting the 2-minute pitch out. But luckily, it managed to go all right.
Did you have time to practice your pitch? Because obviously you have to say off your head, right?
So I came with the pitch on the train the day before, and I was just hammering the pitch. And then in my hotel room the night before, I was just up all night saying the pitch. But the pitch changed in the morning. So anyway, it was a complete... the pitch that I said probably wasn't what I'd rehearsed. I'd added some bits in or whatever, I'd taken some bits out. So it just managed to sound all right. And then when I said it, I was like, oh, God, thank God for that. And then I just answered the questions for an hour and a half.
An hour and a half.
An hour and a half. That's pretty short. And normally it's something like 2.5 hours, 2 hours.
Wow, that is so good. I remember watching on TikTok your clip like about 2 months ago, and I was like, wow, this is really impressive. You imagining yourself being on Dragon's Den 10 years earlier, and then 10 years later you're on there.
Pretty crazy.
I guess you have to have that really, really determination
100%.
to be something, or to want to do something.
Just raw confidence, just to go out and go and get it and give it a go. If you fail, who cares? I could have applied. I could have gone, no, I'm not actually going to get on and not apply. But actually, I thought I wasn't going to get on, but I just applied anyway. And if I got rejection, who cares? At least I know I've tried. And obviously, if I hadn't applied, I probably wouldn't have dropped out of university, and I wouldn't have grown the business as much as we have. I only told my parents a couple of days before I was going on, actually.
You've kept that really well. I mean, well. I couldn't. If it was me, I couldn't keep it in.
I just didn't want. I just wanted to. I also didn't tell my dad I'd been on until after. I only told my mum.
Wow.
So after I got the offer from Steve, I didn't tell my dad until after the show. But when I kind of went on, I knew that if I went on alone, it'd do better as PR. I could just do it on my own, I thought. And I didn't really want to bring my mum on. I just thought, I could do it at 18.
So earlier we discussed your website, I guess, felt a lot of pressure after being on air. I mean, how was it really bad in terms of, in a good way?
Yeah. It was great. I mean, we had minor technical difficulties, but we did a lot of groundwork to make sure it could support. So we spoke to Shopify. Shopify is server based anyway, so it would have been fine. But we spoke to Shopify prior to kind of double check. The plugins we used, we spoke to their support to make sure it could handle the traffic we were predicting.
Wow!
So it was all about making sure that the site could handle the weight it was being put on.
And did you transition to Shopify or something at that point?
No, we've used Shopify our whole time, apart from when we used Wix at the start.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Shopify is an amazing platform. You don't have to worry about all the nuts and bolts. You just worry about the front end and how to make sales.
No, it's perfect. It's one of the greatest. I mean, it's one of the greatest e-commerce platforms now.
Absolutely.
One of the most widely used as well.
100%. We always used to use WordPress and other platforms, but once we migrated to Shopify, we were like, wow, this is good.
It's next level. It tracks it all there for you. It's all in one house, I'd say.
Absolutely. So I guess one of the themes for our podcast is to identify underdogs.
Yeah.
Do you consider yourself to be one?
I think so. I think it's a strange world, I would say, in the business world. Luckily, I've got a good team behind me that are quite young entrepreneurs. But I know that outside of that, it's quite an older world. There's not many 19-year-olds or 18-year-olds out there. And I guess you've got to kind of have that confidence to just go up and at networking events. I never used to speak to people, but then you just got to go up and speak to them. And then they're surprised that you're 18 or 19, and then it works. People really like to help younger people.
Did anyone ever try and take advantage of the fact that you were young and they thought they might
No, but I think that customers we got a lot of emails after we aired that customers didn't believe that we could facilitate their orders.
Okay.
Because they knew we were a young team. But actually we knew loads more than them. They were just sat at home typing on their computers, giving advice, but really we were the experts. They just were older. Apart from that, nothing really.
Amazing. So I guess being young, I would have thought you would have said it made life a little bit difficult. But 100%. You're saying is it quite the opposite as well, or is it a bit of both?
It is difficult because when I dropped out of university, all my friends were at university, so you instantly lose that social life. And then you're working longer hours. You're working all the time, pretty much. I'd be at family events and my phone would ding, and it's like, well, you've got to answer it. And it's just like an addiction. I've just got to answer that email. I've just got to answer that text. And the people around me were real hustlers like that. And obviously, Steven Bartlett's track record. You've got to try and follow that way almost. I think it has been difficult. I think it is difficult for any sort of 18 or 19-year-old to go from going out drinking 3 times a week to working genuinely all day and way into the evening. There was times where I would work till 3 a.m. very regularly, and I still do that now. One, because I'm more productive in the evening, but your friends are going down a completely different path. You know, I think business is looked upon as such a very strange path to take. Like, oh, an 18-year-old, like, who does he think he is going down the path? Like, why don't you just go down the normal route of going to university or go and get an apprenticeship or a job straight away? But actually, it's the best time to take those risks. But yeah, I found it incredibly difficult. But also, like I said, people love helping younger people, the right people, obviously. So yeah, there can be a leg up there as well.
Amazing. Now, do you have anyone much older than you in your team?
Much older. I mean, well, I get criticised because I say, like, there's some 35-year-olds in our team. But no, yeah, we have slightly older than 20 odd. And it's pretty difficult. No, it's pretty scary for me, actually, bringing on those people. I sometimes get a bit of imposter syndrome. Like, I shouldn't be interviewing these people. You know, these guys are like 20 years older than me. But you just got to crack on, you know, and luckily if you've got a good team around you, they'll support you with doing that.
How do you take feedbacks from them? I mean, obviously they've experienced life. I guess if someone's 35, then 15 years more senior. So
100%. And you've got to embrace that as well. I think whatever the age is, whoever they are, you have to be able to embrace feedback. Had a very good conversation with a friend of mine, business owner, a friend of mine, and he was like talking about feedback and how important it is to take it, because I am awful at taking feedback. It's my competitive edge. I just think I'm right all the time, which is just a stupid outlook. You know, when I ran the business, I did social media, I did web design, I did manufacturing, and now it's like, well, we've got to offload them to the experts, the genuine experts. At the start, I didn't want to spend that money. But obviously, when you invest in the experts know right. As much as I hate to say that, but they are the experts.
How do you let it go? Like, you know, at what point, like, do you say, you know what, I'm going to leave it to the experts, but all along you've been doing it yourself, and you have a way of doing things, you have a way to minimize your risks, and now you're kind of just all of a sudden letting it all go to experts. How do you know that they are going to make the right decision, or they're not going to be just lazy and make, you know, lousy decisions?
With regards to making the right decision, you know, business is built on people. You know, it's who you employ. So number one, making sure you've got a good recruiter that can recruit the right people. That the people you're bringing in, you can really gel with them as a team. With regards to kind of letting it go, I feel like a lot of people just let it go to a point of like, oh, it's time to delegate. With me, it was like, I cannot physically do anymore. And then you think you are the expert. You think you're the expert until you bring in an expert and you're like, wow, they're pretty good at that. And that little 1% difference, if that is every day, it goes huge. Well worth the money invested in.
So do you get assistance from recruiters to help you recruit, or is it something that you go out and do yourself?
The first person I hired was a virtual assistant role. So it was someone that could pretty much do everything, like take a bit of, it was like another me almost.
Yeah.
And I remember this person dropped me a message on LinkedIn, and I was like, I'll just meet you in person. And I remember in my office, there's a recruiter there as well, and he was like, what are you doing? And I was awful at interviewing. And from then, I never interviewed anyone face to face first, because I just learned I just couldn't deal with someone straight away. So I brought a recruiter in to be able to deal with those people straight on, and then we could find out who was the best fit, because like I am, I'm not an expert in recruiting, but they are.
Amazing. So that person still exists in your company?
They do, yeah.
Wow. So recruitment is all they do, or do they do other stuff?
No, that person wasn't recruitment. It was a VA. He was a VA at the start. But then we use the same recruiters every time now.
Nice, interesting. How do you find it managing? I mean, did you ever have to discipline anyone that's much older than you, and how did it go down?
I think the only people we've disciplined that are older than me are people in the manufacturing team. So we've had a couple of errors in terms of product development. Some of the products weren't fit, and they passed QC checks. Things happen all the time, and then it's just saying to them like, look, this isn't right. And if you say that up front, they'll be open and honest with you. But you really need to be clear and concise. It's not about it's about friendships, right? But it's about getting the business to grow. And with regards to investors, it's about getting their money back and making them happy. So you can't be like, oh, this is a great job. Like, really, you need to be pushing them. You need to be pushing your team, and how can we grow? But also helping them grow at the same time.
Amazing. I find it very difficult to balance this. You know, I guess it was much harder when I was younger, you know, to kind of work with more senior people. Yeah. But I guess as life teaches you lessons, you know, you just have to just get on with things. You just have to do what you got to do. It's nothing personal. It's nothing emotional. You just have to do what you have to do. I've noticed you kind of call yourself Myles Dickinson, but in some cases you call yourself Myles Dickinson Brown.
Yeah.
I understand also you understand PR quite well. Is that some kind of a PR thing to kind of link yourself back to someone?
No, so my parents, they've been together 30 years, and my dad's name's Dickinson, my mum's name's Brown. So my legal name was Myles Dickinson Brown, but they've got married a year and a bit ago. So that's why it's Myles Dickinson now.
Okay. So talk to me about your grandfather. I mean, he was a TV person, and obviously when I look at his picture, he just looks like a TV person. He's got that look.
He does have that look.
Yeah. So did he have any influence on you, and if so, how?
In terms of Dragon's Den, no. In terms of, he didn't know I was going on. He didn't know I'd been on until after the show. He didn't know about my business either until after the show. But in terms of kind of like looking up to someone and seeing what he has achieved and what he's got access to now, that was a real motivator. And obviously my parents, you know, they're huge motivators as well. But kind of having that person that's succeeding in life, you're like, I need to succeed now. You know, they're succeeding, I need to succeed. So definitely drives you and pushes you to work hard.
So talk to me about your relationship with your grandfather. I mean, how does it look like? I mean, you'd go to his house or he would come to your house? Well, how does it happen?
Yeah, he's just a normal granddad, really. I go see him every week, like you would see your grandparents, whatever. But now he's very supportive, gives his words of advice where he wants to give them.
What does he generally talk about? What's his favorite?
Life advice, that's it. Yeah, he is pretty business-minded, but he doesn't understand... Well, he does, but he's not very clued up as some of our experts in terms of the website space. I give him...
you give him some advice on tech, right? Personal branding. I mean, how important is that to you?
Well, it's incredibly important. But I remember, for example, my university lecturer, when I was at university, he was like, everyone needs a LinkedIn. I was like, what the hell is LinkedIn? Why would people use LinkedIn? You've got Instagram. And it went like that for ages until I dropped out of university. And our team was so heavy on LinkedIn. I was like, why do these guys care so much about LinkedIn? When I think Steve put a post of me on LinkedIn, and they got like 45,000 likes on LinkedIn. So that's decent. And my own LinkedIn blew up. And then I was like, right, personal brand is so important. You know, some of the big deals we've closed have been just through the head of partnerships DMing me on LinkedIn. So I was like, right, I've got to go on LinkedIn. Everyone else, I got open to this world of business owners, and everyone was on LinkedIn. So I was like, right, making my aim to start posting on LinkedIn. And at first I found it incredibly cringy sometimes. And I also felt like I had zero value to add. You know, at the time I was 18, giving advice. I was like, well, I shouldn't be giving advice. I've only been doing this for like less than a year. But then you learn that it's a different perspective. You know, it's an 18-year-old perspective on this piece of news is different to a 40-year-old's perspective, and both perspectives are equal and they're both valuable. So personal brand is huge. You know, that's one thing we are trying to improve this year.
Amazing. And what would you do to protect it if someone was trying to damage it?
Legal team. No, I think it's just how strong you can make it. The more you put into it, the stronger it will be, and the best it will be, really.
Hello, audience. I hope you're enjoying the show. Please comment below which is your favorite part of the show, and let us know which guests you want next. Let's get back into the show. Okay, I've got some quick fire questions for you. So, I think you mentioned you studied in London.
I did.
What do you prefer, Leeds or London?
Manchester or London. London's better vibe, atmosphere, but Manchester is home. I like home. I'm in between them both. In between the two cities quite a lot.
Nice, amazing. I love Manchester.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot calmer.
It is. It's a mini London, but then London's got the vibe. You know, it's cooler. But yeah.
Yeah. So, Dragon's Den or Bargain Hunt?
Dragon's Den.
Dragon's Den, yeah. Instagram or LinkedIn?
LinkedIn.
And you've already mentioned
so much more value for LinkedIn.
Software on hardware?
Software.
Nice. I thought it would have been hardware.
Yeah, I know. I'm starting to pivot a little bit more, but
antiques or artificial intelligence?
Artificial intelligence.
Nice. Face-to-face meeting or Zoom?
Face-to-face meeting.
Nice.
More coffee consumed.
Are you a morning or a nighttime person?
A nighttime person. I work from 8 p.m. to like 2 a.m.
So do you feel tired in the morning?
No, because I just sleep in longer.
Okay.
The most work I get done is in the evenings. In the mornings, it's just meetings because that's when people are awake. But I will be WhatsApping people at like 10 p.m. at night. I love just working in the evening, you know, headphones on, pitch black outside and just grinding away for a couple hours.
What time do you wake up?
10.
10.
If someone sends me a Zoom in via 8:30, I'll have to do it in bed. But apart from that.
Reading or listening versus watching? I mean, what
Listening and watching, I hate books. I just cannot read a book. I think it's my minor ADHD.
What happens when you start reading a book?
I just get bored. It's just not entertaining to me. Maybe I've just been reading awful books. I've started to listen to podcasts now.
Yeah, I mean, same with me. Like every time I open a book, after like I guess one or two paragraph, I'm asleep. So sometimes if I want to fall asleep,
Read a book.
I start reading a book.
Yeah,
and it's really quick. So in a podcast, I saw you. You like the idea of sticking to one business. I mean, what's your view on one business versus multiple business? Because obviously I'm in a position where I've got a couple.
Yeah.
But I would love to hear your view on one business versus multiple businesses.
I think it depends what context you're in. If you are like Elon Musk, then you can get away with loads and loads of business because you can delegate. Like yourself, you can delegate things. But if you're, you know, younger, you don't have the resources, or you're just starting your first one, you don't want to make 3 businesses. Every hour you spend working on a business should be on one business. It's hard enough to win the race with one business, no matter two. There's no one out there who has created 2 great businesses, amazing businesses at the same time. You can create 2 all right businesses. If you really want to do well, I think you've got the best opportunity of putting all eggs in one basket and just focusing on that until you can delegate, and then you can start creating other businesses.
So would you think you might get into other businesses once you've really perfected Haze customization?
I think you can pivot businesses into different directions. I don't think that's necessarily creating another one. But yeah, I feel like you'll know once you've got the opportunity in terms to delegate. You know, if you've got a bit more free time. In terms of headspace as well, I find a lot of my time is spent thinking. You know, I'm not there for 12 hours a day on my computer. It's more of like thinking about an issue and it taking up headspace. I just think it's so difficult to make 2 great businesses. No, one great businesses. So how difficult is it to create 2 great businesses? That's kind of my perspective on it now, really.
Amazing. So I guess you've done that. We can go to our next question, which is something that I ask everyone. Do you have a physical or mental health routine, and what does it look like if you do have one?
I think it's incredibly important. Both physical health. I used to go to the gym quite a lot, and then business life happened, and I'm just shattered all the time. So I don't end up going. But I've just bought some weight equipment, so it's weights it's in my house now. So then it's all. My issue is like getting to the gym, coming back from the gym. So if it's all in one place, it's all efficient, isn't it? You just pop downstairs, bit of gym, straight back to work. And then mental health, you know, that's incredibly important as well. I find, I've read a study, it's like entrepreneurs are 30% more likely to get depression. I think it's an incredibly lonely road. You know, when I first started Haze, it was incredibly lonely. You know, you don't have a team. You don't have people that necessarily understand what you're doing or why you're doing it. And personally, someone who's not an entrepreneur kind of looking at you and understanding your issues is a bit of a hard one to relate to. So I think I try and surround myself with people who have gone around that same journey. So other young entrepreneurs are on LinkedIn, reach out and we can talk about our problems, you know, just dropping a WhatsApp message, speaking to them about their days, going to their offices, they're coming to mine, and kind of just sharing your problems. You know, there's a lot, when you're on your own and you've got a lot of problems, you feel like the whole world's coming down on you. But when you hear that everyone else has the same problems, it's like, okay, we can deal with these problems together.
Amazing. So give me one incident where you felt like so lonely. I guess it was the loneliest point in your entrepreneurship journey.
Before I dropped out of university, it was pretty lonely. I was in between whether I was going to drop out or not, and I had exams coming up, and I knew I was going. I kind of knew I was going on Dragon's Den. exams, and trying to grow the business at the same time. And I didn't go out at all. You know, I was in my dorm room churning cards. Royal Mail would come up in the morning, pick the parcels up, and I'd manufacture for the evening. So that was pretty lonely. But that's why I like Manchester. You know, it's home. You've got your friends there, and you thrive, and you work hard, and you thrive more when you're in an environment that you're comfortable in. So yeah, I feel like Manchester's the place to be.
You know what? I really, really commend you now, because when I was going to school or college, I didn't have business pressure. But what you were dealing with, exams, fulfilling orders, customer feedbacks, if
and
you don't fulfill
well,
properly,
you know,
and so it is a lot. And you know what? Massive congratulations to you, man.
Nearly quit a couple
It's
times,
amazing. It's amazing. I really, really kind of appreciate, you know, hard work and good work ethics. Obviously, hard work and partying. I mean, how do you balance it out? Do you feel at some point in the near future where you will have to cut down on some of the kind of nightlife or?
Yeah, I mean, I don't go out a lot at the moment. I'm more of a pub guy.
You're kind of like, you know,
just sitting there in a pub on my own. So I try and have a bit of social life. But I think the best thing is that in our office, we all get along. So you have that kind of social interactions every day now, whereas before it was in my dorm room on my own. But then in terms of like going out and partying, I'd gone from going out 3 times a week, central London, going out partying, really enjoying myself, to kind of just no partying. It's good. I try and not consume too much alcohol. I did 2 weeks sober, just to test how that would go. Which is great, and I felt great. But I enjoy a drink. I enjoy just sitting in a bar, just drink, have a chat. It relaxes me after a long day. But yeah, got to try and keep.
How does it kind of? Obviously, I don't drink, so I don't know how it feels like. You were sobering. Is it like withdrawal symptoms, or like, you know, when you stop drinking coffee? What's that feeling?
Part of a routine. So it's the routine of going to the pub, having a drink, just sat there having a chat with your mates. And then when you don't do that, it's like, well, I'd really just like to relax, have a drink. It's like with coffee. I am heavily addicted to coffee now, just because I consume so much coffee.
How many cups?
So the worst thing is, in the office, there's a coffee machine, and you just press the button, and the coffee comes out. So I just end up getting like 6 a day.
Wow.
Lattes.
Is it half a cup 6 a day or full cup 6 a day?
Whatever a normal cup is.
Wow.
But if you balance it through the day, it's not that bad. 5 a day, actually. I don't want to say it's 5 or 6.
So do you have a like stop time where you can't have coffee after that point time?
I remember I was in the office, and I said to a friend of mine, I was going to have a coffee. It was like 7 o'clock at night, and he was like, "You having a coffee?" Coffees don't affect me now anymore. The caffeine in coffee doesn't affect me. So I'll have a coffee at like 10 p.m. at night, and I'll still sleep. I think I'm just so used to coffee. Maybe I'll go on like a month of no caffeine.
Wow. So what was the biggest sacrifice did you make in this journey? Like, was there any sacrifices?
Lots of sacrifices. Definitely social life. Huge sacrifice. Kind of the normal 18 to 19-year-old life. I've definitely sacrificed that. Just normal life, right? Just the ease of being able to go at university. You're only in lectures 3 times a week, and go out on the Saturday or the Sunday, and come back and you have a day to relax. Whereas now it's like on the go 24/7. So there's no time to relax. I'm going to try and go on holiday in the summer. So yeah, I think I've hugely lost a lot of social interaction with friends and just the normal 19-year-old life.
What's it like? So do you see your friends every now and again? Or
I do see them. I travel to their universities to go see them here and there, but
so they're still in university, and you've kind of taken a completely different path.
Different route. So, but luckily they're very supportive. I think if my friends weren't so supportive, then it's a bit of like, oh, you're not going out, but they understand. They get it. I try and have a little bit of the 19-year-old life here as much as I can.
Amazing. So I guess one of my last questions is, what is it like to have a big investor working with you? Yeah. And has that kind of, did you have to do things that you kind of didn't really want to do, but you just did it anyway because they are so big and, you know, they have so much influence on everything that you do?
I think no matter the size of the investor, they're important. You know, they're integral. I feel like whatever investor I would have brought into business wouldn't have been anyone passive. You know, investors, it's not just about the capital, it's about them providing their team, providing their value in terms of their network, or just being able to sit down and have a chat with you. You know, they've walked that road. So be able to jump on a Zoom call or WhatsApp and discuss the issues you're having, they completely get that. It's a learning curve, right? You go from just messing around at university, not a care in the world, really, whether it did well, just kind of just pursuing the dream, to then real life business. It's proper stuff. This is the real stuff. So yeah, a learning curve. But if you've got a supportive investor, they'll understand that. They'll understand there's some bumps in the road. We're actually doing some fundraising at the moment as well. So kind of having that first investor, you learn a lot about how to attract further investors in the future. But I would say you also don't need an investor. I feel like a lot of people are really need investors, or no, believe that they really need investors, but really they could just grow it a little bit slower and not give away so much equity. So yeah, I think it's not all as it seems.
Absolutely, a lot of people even say to me, "Yeah, I need capital, but
you don't need
that's
capital. Not really."
Yeah, exactly. You could make a start and
then prove. I think what's important for investors is being able to prove the market. You know, people are like, "Oh, I need £250,000." They haven't even turned over anything. Or I need £250,000 to start this clothing brand. Well, no, you don't. You just need to be able to fund maybe a small amount of t-shirts, prove that you can sell those t-shirts, and then reinvest that capital. Or at that point, then you've proven the road, proven the market. You can then bring investors in, or very small investors, or there's lots of grants out there, things like that. So I don't think people need to run to capital so quickly.
Amazing, and I guess, you find yourself in a much stronger position as well when you're standing in front of an investor, where you have data to prove, where you're talking with confidence, where you know what you're talking about, and it's a much more kind of equal kind of playing ground as opposed to them just kind of looking down at you and you kind of
it's a friend
their
almost.
favor.
It's a friend, and they. I think one thing for me was that whoever I brought into the business was interested in the product and the vision and the idea. And that's what our kind of a checklist is. You wouldn't just take capital from anyone. We want someone who can provide value with their team, and have expertise down our market or in our sector. So, yeah, it's quality of investor as well. There are some sharks out there.
Yeah, absolutely. My last question would be is one from Instagram, and they asked your opinion of being a born entrepreneur or a made entrepreneur. How
Great
do you
question.
view that?
I think when I look at my childhood, I think it was everywhere. My parents didn't have normal jobs. My dad worked for himself. My mum, she ran a restaurant. So they were both kind of like entrepreneurial paths. And then, through watching Dragon's Den and The Apprentice, you learn bits and pieces. And then if you create that over like 9 years or 8 years, you've learned a lot. And I used to buy and sell phones on eBay, that kind of thing when I was younger, just to get a bit of extra money. No big dream. But then you kind of catch the bug. And at university, I kind of caught the bug of like, I would really want to do this. I love the management side. I love creating something. It's not about, for me, it's not all about the money. It's about being able to create something that there's a longer term goal there, there's a longer term play. But I think they are born. But they can be created. You can get spark and you can crack on. But I think they are born.
No, definitely. I think it's a combination of both. Sometimes people just need that push or that spark, as is the case with me. I always kind of downplayed myself, my capabilities, and maybe it's just the way, my surrounding was, where people thought I shouldn't be in a certain way. Yeah. And then I came across something like personal development, and that really kind of unlocked my thinking. And I was like, I too can do this. I too can do that.
It's confidence.
And that was it. That ignition turned on, and from there on I took over. But I think with entrepreneurship, you can't just spoon feed all along. It just doesn't work. No, you have to have that drive.
It's just raw confidence and determination to go out there and do it. I always think no matter how good your business is, there's going to be problems, and there's so many pitfalls that you're going to go into. And when you're in those pitfalls, it's like it's so easy to leave and go, actually, this isn't. It's so many times where I've looked back and I thought, this isn't for me. It's not just about being able to produce a good business, being able to be a founder that can take on the stress, take on the pressure, and succeed. And I think you've got to really enjoy what you do, because when the pitfalls come, they're really difficult. Like that time we lost 15 grand. That's 15 grand. At that point, you could have gone, right, I've had enough now. But then you think, you just got to keep going. You've got to keep trying again. And there's so many brilliant podcasts and people to look up to that explain those pitfalls. And everyone has pitfalls. It's not that your business is awful. It's just things go wrong, and it's just being able to come back from that and keep going. And sometimes it can knock people down and they don't get back up.
Absolutely. What would you say to our viewers and listeners, who are listening in or watching today? Any advice for people who are looking to get into the journey of entrepreneurship? What would you say to them?
It's not just to young entrepreneurs, but in entrepreneurs in general, or aspiring entrepreneurs, is number one, it's incredibly competitive. You've got to really want it. I did a talk at my old university where I dropped out of, and at the end I said, put your hand up if you want to be an entrepreneur. And I have a room of 80 odd people, half put their hand up. These are people studying that want to become entrepreneurs. You've got to really want it. There's a lot of people that will work harder than you. You've got to work harder than them. You've got to work those nights. You don't switch off, right? I will be on next to my girlfriend and my phone will go off, and it's like, well, you've got to answer the phone. You've got to get it done. Those people that turn their phones off at 5 p.m. won't be the ones that succeed. It'll be people that carry on in the nights and they wake up in the morning. They do those sacrifices. A lot of people probably in my situation would have gone, I enjoy university. I'll wait till I finish university. Then when I turn 21, I'll pursue it. But no, you want to. If the opportunity is there, take the opportunity. I think you just got to get out there, give it a go, and what's the worst that could happen?
What would you say we get a lot of people who are working, who are in jobs, but they also want to kind of transition into the entrepreneurship world. How would you tell them to transition in, just jump into the deep end, or take a slower approach and,
I have a high-risk mindset, but you've got to be careful with high-risk mindset. The risk you choose has to be calculated. You can't just be stupid. And I'm lucky because when I was at university, I had nothing to lose, really. If I had dropped out, I'd go back. So that was the risk for me. I kind of ummed and ahed and I thought drop out. But when you've got family, kids, it's so difficult to kind of leave that job that supports your family and kids and just go the other direction, because it could all fail. We all look at the people who have succeeded, but there's so many who have failed. Risks always has to be calculated. What's the upside? Can you go part-time for a little bit, or can you save enough money that will give you enough of a runway to be able to start the business? Do you have a partner that can support you whilst you kind of create that business, or can it be part-time? A lot of businesses, yes, the hours might be crazy, but you could work in the day and in the evening you could work on your business and then start to tailor it off. But I just think it's so difficult the older you get and the more responsibilities you have to transition into business.
Just one last question. On this topic, interpersonal skills, how important is it to be good with communication and persuasion and, being able to kind of, I guess, sell ideas?
Incredibly important once again. All the skills are so valued. At school, you were never assessed on those kind of skills. It's always kind of like memory, and you didn't really need to memorize things these days. You got the internet. And I think for me, I had those good skills. I could talk to people, I could talk to investors, and I had pure confidence. I always say pure confidence because I just had pure confidence. I talk to anyone. I take every meeting. When I look back on all the opportunities, it's because I took that meeting or I spoke to that person who put me in contact with them and knew him. So I think incredibly important. You've got to be able to communicate with people. You've got to be able to not be able to burn bridges and have that relationship. It doesn't have to all be about business. I talk to a lot of people about kind of like football, and then that will lead on to the conversation of business. So yeah, those skills, I don't know if they can probably be learned over time, but I feel like you've got to have them. Definitely.
Myles, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
I'd love to stay in touch.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Guys, thank you for watching this week's podcast. If you have enjoyed the show, please like, comment, and of course, subscribe. Let us know which guests you want on the next show.